Do you ever feel like your painting's fine, but kind of lifeless? That's when I use something I call the disruption method, and it almost always gets things moving again. Hi there, I'm Janine. I'm an artist and I share my creative journey on this channel. I'm sure you've been there, you're working on a painting and it's fine, the colours are good, your composition looks okay, but it feels flat and you don't know how to make it better. I have a bit of a unique method to dealing with that, and that's what I call the disruption method. Instead of overworking, we're going to introduce chaos on purpose and then use that chaos to bring the painting back to life. Let me show you what that looks like on some real paintings I'm currently working on. When we fix our compositions and we kind of start to get out of that messy middle, what can happen is our paintings can feel or start to feel a little bit boring, a little bit too flat, a little bit too perfect even sometimes. And what I teach inside my course Composition for Intuitive Abstracts is to actually add a step, which is the disruption method. So it's basically taking risks in your art. So I have this painting here where I fixed a lot of things. The composition is not bad. I have some like dark shape here, some here, then some bits down here. So your eye moves around the painting. I have interesting colors, but something's not quite working. So either when it's looking a bit too boring or at this point where you're getting a little bit stuck, great thing to do is to just add a bold mark without thinking. And there's lots of different ways you could do that. I'm thinking I might add some more of the yellow, and I'll use quite a big brush for that, because that kind of takes my thinking mind out of it a lot more. So I'm taking some yellow. I'm actually going to mix it with a little bit of red just to make it a little bit warmer and a bit more similar to what's already on here. And then I'm just going to make a mark without thinking. And now that has completely transformed the painting, and often it makes it look, well, most of the time it makes it look worse than it was before, but it will give you something to respond to. You'll have to fix that in the next step. I am going to let it dry first before I move on this one. So let's look at another one. This here I already quite like, so I don't think I want to disrupt too much on this, but I think you could do with a little bit more interest. So this is going to be a much more subtle disruption, but it kind of serves the same purpose as in making marks without thinking, even though I've already fixed a lot on here, which seems very scary to do because you don't want to ruin the painting, but it's all part of the process. Yeah, this is a Neocolor 2 wax crayon in English Red. One thing I like to do with these actually is to add some, I'm sure you've seen me do this before, add some fluid medium, and that kind of makes them wash out a little bit more. So, and it will fix it into place when it dries, but because it'll just be a layer of acrylic on top. And you can also erase a little bit of the bits that you don't like. So you already see how it dissolves a lot of that mark. Gonna make sure that I've got medium over all the marks, and any bits that I think are distracting I can already erase a little bit. I think these here are actually too much, and then I'm using what I've got on my brush from the Neocolor in some other areas so the color goes there as well. Now this one, I think I added this purple color here, which I did really like at the time, but now that it's dried, I'm not so sure about it. But I do like the idea of having a purple there. So I think I will just use this pre-mixed color that I've got and add quite a large area. And at this point, I'm not quite sure where to best put it, so I will just do that without thinking. And now that it's on here, I think it is too light. So I will already mix some of it with a little bit more darker color. There's a little bit somewhere between this color and this color. I think that's disrupted this one enough. This one here, I definitely don't know what to do with. I have added some purple bits, which I do like. I think it might need something quite different on here. Could be yellow. Let's just try the yellow while we've got it here. I do want it to be a bit warmer, so I am adding some red to the yellow. I think I don't like that these two are so disconnected, so I'm going to make a mark over those. That's everything, and that's all I'm thinking here. The mark itself is going to be very intuitive. And this mark I have just done because everything's here, and I also want some of that colour up here. So I'm already thinking a little bit. Not sure about that. And this one I also think feels a little bit boring. I think I want to use the purple as well on here. And here, just to have something a little bit different, I could scratch into that wet paint already. And then I let it dry and look at all of them with fresh eyes again and see where I can fix the composition again. So now that I've disrupted all the pieces, we need to respond to that. I actually really love this one here, and I like that I scratched into here so you can still see what was underneath and a little bit of texture, even though it's very subtle. It is very similar now to this one. So I think on this one I'm going to have to change something to make it different, because I do like this. One thing that bothers me a little bit is this dark blue here. I think I'm just going to paint a little bit over that, or just with something a bit warmer, so it's not as obvious. It can look kind of blue, but I want it just to be a bit more subtle. So then I'll move on to that other one that I've just talked about. It has made it quite a lot more boring, but I think I do like that it's created some spaciousness in here. I love this more earthy but vibrant bit paired with this lilac. So I think this bit is actually distracting. I like that the light textured area here, but this is quite a strong contrast between this value and this value. So I think I want to make this part here a bit lighter, you see, like that. Maybe even introduce some more of the blue up here. So let's make that lighter first. I'm going to use this pre-mixed color. Let's go over some of this.
If you like this video, consider subscribing.
Add a little bit more of the orange. And then I'll introduce a little bit of the light blue. That was a bit too stripy, so let's try to make that a bit different. I like how now that colour moves around the painting. Got a little bit blue here as well. So I'll leave that to dry and see what I think of it. Just to look at it again next to this one. Obviously the colours are quite similar, but I feel like the feel of these is now quite different, because this is all very much one kind of value, and this has got a lot more contrast and a lot more texture and also more variety in colour. This one here, I do like what this did, but it is a little bit all over the place. I think one thing that's bothering me again is this strong contrast. So I've got a little bit of light blue on my brush here, so I'm going over it transparently just to knock back the value of the blue. Make it a little bit lighter so the contrast is not as stark next to this lighter area. So it's still there as a mark, but it's not as noticeable. And you notice that I'm now in these paintings making smaller and smaller changes. And that's a good indicator that I'm getting closer to being finished with these. Because there's less and less that's bothering me in a painting. And at some point there won't be anything that I want to change. There's always things I could change, but if I'm happy with it,
I don't really want to change anything anymore, then I think it's finished. So now that I think feels much better. This again is quite dark in comparison. I do have a few darker bits over here, so I don't mind that they're darker, but that this is darker, but I do mind that this is kind of the only dark bit. The other ones are quite much less noticeable. Could maybe introduce another darker area over here. I haven't decided if I like that there's so many different colors, or if I want to reduce the amount of colors a little bit. I think to make the vibrant colors shine, I need to add a more neutral color so they can play off each other. And let's try a darker neutral color. So I'm going to mix all the 3 primaries that I'm using together. Let's use this brush, I haven't used that in a while. So I'll mix some blue, some yellow and some red, which should give me a fairly neutral color. I do have a video where I show how I mix neutral colors. I will link that down below for you if you're interested. So I'm just making this corner down here a bit darker. I had some water on my brush, so that made it a bit more transparent. I do like the yellow here, so I'm not going over a lot of that yellow. Just take some of this purple that I've still got here, blend that into this new color. And I think I'll also make that, or a lot of that, more this neutral color. Maybe even make it a bit lighter. I think this is very separate from the rest, so I will try and connect that with some of the rest of the painting by just making kind of random marks with my brush. Adding a bit of blue to my brush because I do like some of the blue here, but then I keep on taking the blue back, so we'll see. It feels much darker over here than it does over there actually, and I think that's because you have that light value to play off of it. I think some of this light blue I'm going to make this more pinky color. I feel like they're all going to end up with the same kind of colors. I don't necessarily mind that. I don't think I'm liking this light here. Let's add some of this lilac again. Also this dark keeps on distracting me. So it's going. Add a little bit over here so that color moves around. And there was a little bit here that's kind of light. So making that even lighter so it looks a bit more intentional. I'm not keen on that though. I do love this here, this red, but it's not really showing up in other places. Let's see if I can mix this kind of color again. I think it's just a very warm red. One thing I haven't done in a long time is actually sanding, which I could do on this one to get some of the interest of the previous layers. And it's a very good tool for when you just want something that's out of your control and for adding texture. But I do need to leave that to dry for that to work. So let's put that one aside. I do actually love this one. I love the blue with the red here. I think this is not many other colors. I do really like that. I'm wondering if I want to change anything on here. There's this line which is a little bit distracting, but I'm wondering if it maybe just adds a nice bit of dissonance, because I feel like if I remove this it's going to lose a lot of the tension. That works really well here. One thing maybe is that all of this is kind of one value, and I could maybe add a touch of interest here. So let's actually try the sanding, maybe in a spot down here, and see if something interesting comes out of it. Not sure about that. There's a few little dots here, but they're now very different to what else is on the painting. It has made it a little bit lighter, but maybe too much. I'll try a little bit up here as well. So I do like that it's added a little bit of texture, but maybe I will want to take some of it back again. So I'll just take this color here again, which I think is quite similar to what's on here. go over some of it to make it blend in more with the rest here. But I do like these little bits here. This one here, I'm still not sure about the purple. I do like what the yellow did on here. It added a lot more vibrancy and energy. I think I might try and sand some of it. That has revealed a lot of the texture that was underneath, a lot of the brush strokes. Not sure about this red mark now, so I'm going over that as well. I'm going over here because there's quite a lot of texture from before. I do actually quite like that. Even though I like the orange colour that was here, I can always add that somewhere else. Just do a little bit down here. And also up here. And it actually blends the edge of this really nicely. It's quite addictive, the sanding, because it reveals some really interesting textures. Okay, I think that's enough for now. Now, I like this much more now. I think one thing is that this is not as dark anymore, which I quite like. I also like the textures that it reveals. I really love what's happened over here in this corner. I'm not quite sure how to respond to it. I think I do like the yellow, so I might add a few more bits of yellow. I'll do it quite transparently again so I can see that lovely texture that we've just revealed. Just make this a little bit more like the pink background. So the sanding almost also acts like a, you can use that for the disruption method, because it really takes your control out of what's happening. I mean, you control where you want to place it, but what it exactly looks like is kind of out of your control. I'm just putting some blue over what I just did here because I don't really like that. I do like it much better now. So this green down here. Just breaking those yellow lines up a little bit with this background colour. This is the light blue. And I'm also making this blend into the blue a little bit more. Quite like that. I'm not sure it goes with the other paintings as well. We'll see. Let's leave it for now. This one's kind of dry now, so I think we can try and sand a little bit. Does have much more interest now, much more interesting texture, but it's all kind of, the texture in here is all kind of the same, all kind of washy with tiny bits of texture. So I think I want to add something different to make it look more interesting. One thing I could do is add some soft pastel and mix it around with the medium like I did earlier. Or I could also use a paint pen, which is quite a different, not as washed, so I might start with that. And again, I'm basically disrupting here because I'm not putting too much thought into this. I just know that I want more texture. And on my larger pieces of this series, I have a lot of this line work that I really liked. So I'm just trying to do some of that here as well. I'm going to go over that, go over a lot of this again later. But it's just adding some texture. And I think I also want to do it to this one. Not sure if I want to do the paint pen as well, or if it's just going to be the soft pastel. This one's already got more different textures, but I think it could do with some line work. I do already have a little bit of line work here. Let's try this one. think I still want to add some soft pastel. I actually like this one. I like this one when I put it on the large canvases. And this one's already got a lot of different colours, so maybe this is the one that wants a bit more colour. And once I add the gloss medium to this, it will actually look much darker when it dries. I really like the lighter blue. Maybe I should add some of that lighter colour with acrylic paint. So first I'm trying to just go over all the lines gently so they kind of stay where they are, and then I can go over and see where I want to maybe remove some more and go over it a little bit rougher. I think here where it was already quite light, I don't want there to be too many marks. I did like that there was a bit of a calmer space. So I'm just making these much more subtle. Quite like that. And then this one here, I do also want to do this. I'm not sure what color to use for it. I think the blue might be a bit too outlandish here. Maybe I'll just use a more subtle color like this. Or should I go really bright? Something like a pink. Let's do that. Let's just go for it. It's actually crumbled a little bit here, which will probably add a lot of pink paint here, which might be quite interesting. Yeah, I think the pink was the right choice. That's a lot more vibrancy and a lot more interest than probably the subtle colour would have done. I think I put too much medium on here. I actually might try and put it on this one because I think this yellow is a bit too acidic. Maybe a little bit of pink will be quite good. Not sure. I have to do that separately. I much prefer that now. Probably still have to take back some of these lighter strokes, but I love the pink on here. The disruption method is the opposite of making a perfect move. It's about being willing to shake things up when you need to, and then responding to what emerges. And if you want to learn more about this, I've got a free intuitive artist's composition guide that shows you my whole composition process, including the disruption method, and you can get it via the link in the description. And if you want some more tips on solving your composition, I've got a whole playlist of videos and I'll link it down below for you. Thanks and bye bye.